What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about a game franchise I am very much connected to, and I think it's about time we've talked about this franchise in regards to 2021. Is this the year that we get a brand new Uncharted game announced, not necessarily released? I mean, of course, I would petition whoever you want me to petition in order to get that, but in all reality, I think the best we can hope for this year would be an announcement. So I do want to go over kind of all the aspects, talk about that Sony San Diego team, but just generally speculate about this year in regards to Uncharted. If you guys do like that stuff, and I can definitely make more Uncharted videos and get more specific in topics. This one's kind of like a generalization. This is like an overview of Uncharted, but I can do different ones if you want. Make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on. If you guys want to follow me on Twitter, PodcastNow15 is my Twitter handle. I'll leave a link for it in the description below. All right, look, and I've said this before. I actually said this back when Uncharted was still coming out, because now Uncharted the movie is gone from 2021. Remember, Uncharted the movie with Tom Holland was supposed to release in July. Now it's moved, I believe, February 11th. So we're approaching, almost a year away. Now we were actually going to approach only like 6 months away. So that kind of, whenever you tell me that, that's like a punch to the face. But this was supposed to be, I think, truly like the year of Uncharted. And not necessarily, and I think people will say this, and I don't necessarily agree with this, I don't think it was like planned. That Uncharted movie obviously has been shuffled for years and years and years. I think it probably would have been kind of like Fantastic Beasts with Hogwarts Legacy. I think it's like a happy coincidence that it probably would have lined up where we get an Uncharted game announcement this year and we get the Uncharted movie this year. I think that was probably what was going to happen. And again, I think it was just a happy coincidence that was going to happen. Now, you could say, would they delay the announcement of the game until February? To be quite honest, I do think that's a possibility. I do want to get there in a second. First, we should talk about, do we think there's an Uncharted game being made? So that's obviously, you can't have an Uncharted announcement if you don't believe that there's no game in the works. I have always said this ever since we heard about the San Diego team. I will say it until the day I die or the day they obviously announce their game. Hopefully that one is sooner than my death. I really do believe they are working on an Uncharted game. We've had all of the kind of requirements for an Uncharted game that we've heard that they're doing. Could be an Uncharted 1 remake. I would really prefer not. I've talked about that before in its own video. Please don't, for just many reasons that I'll maybe link the video and you guys can check that out. I would prefer a brand new Uncharted. And to be honest with you, even if they do a remake, I think the overall goal is to continue the franchise anyway. So if they do a remake, I think there's going to be more Uncharteds afterwards, in the first place. I would just prefer a brand new Uncharted game. So I do think they are making one. Again, that's kind of important because if you don't believe there's an Uncharted game in the works, then obviously there's no hope for an Uncharted announcement this year. So, would it be announced this year? Again, if you asked me a month ago, before Uncharted the movie was delayed, I would have said, and I think a lot of people, I've seen a lot of like industry insiders, not necessarily like they know that they're making an Uncharted game, but like people that know their stuff, I've seen a lot of them say, I think Sony would kind of be crazy to let this year come and go with a movie of Uncharted without talking about a future game plan, okay? I completely agree. I really, really do. You're going to have people, and I've said this before, you're going to have people watching this movie that have never played the game, okay? Now, the movie is probably not going to make $5, $6, $7, $800 million, okay? But even if the movie makes 200, 300, 400, however many millions of dollars, you are going to get people in that group, okay, that supported the movie that have never played the game before, and maybe they still never will, or maybe maybe some won't, maybe some will, but you are going to unlock people that have maybe and most likely never heard about the franchise before. I mean, when you stick actors, and I'm not going to discredit Mark Wahlberg in this way. Mark Wahlberg and Tom Holland, when you stick them into something like this, you are flat out going to have eyes on the project. I mean, you just absolutely will. Again, the movie could suck, and maybe that'll turn people away from the game, but maybe it's good. Maybe the movie's good, and then maybe people will be like searching for the game. And to kind of pair that with an announcement right before or right after, well, I mean, that's a killer combo, right? Imagine it. The movie comes out, and then you say, okay, we're working on a game. Now, the issue is, I could talk about that for an hour. The problem is the movie was delayed. So the movie's now next February. So do you delay the game announcement? Normally, optimistic Alex, the Alex that wants these announcements as soon as possible, would probably tell you, no, I don't think you would delay it. I think you would still do it now. But I do want to say what we know about Sony from insiders doesn't necessarily need to be true, but what we have heard, and this goes back several months ago, remember, they have several announcements under wraps, like they're not talking about that they're working on, whether it's exclusive deals with publishers and developers or whether it's exclusive games of their own. They have more things to talk about than they are. Now, I've always gone to like Silent Hill. Uncharted, I think, is a good one, right? You have a couple announcements that they're probably holding on to that they could announce, but they're not. And the word on the street is they're not because they're waiting for Microsoft. Microsoft actually does have quite a bit going for it, but they're also kind of being quiet. And if Sony does all of their stuff now, Microsoft can destroy them down the line. They can say, boom, boom, here's a Bethesda game. Here's the Perfect Dark game again. Here's all this stuff. Here's Fable. They could just go boom, 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 and Sony's got nothing to counter it with. So that's word on the street that Sony's kind of waiting for it. So again, optimistic me would have told you before I heard that, just no, announce it. And not like if you were going to announce it in July or June for maybe like a virtual E3 thing, do it anyway. However, movie's delayed. Probably the announcement would factually do better around the movie than not. And if Microsoft still doesn't talk about much, why? Why do it? The Uncharted game, say the game releases in fall of 2022, okay? You don't need to announce it right now. You could pull a card from like Warner Bros. Or other publishers and developer, or Bethesda even, when they announce their game and they release it right after, okay? They could go that route. Now, normally Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo goes the longer route where they announce it years before. So it would be a break from tradition, but if the game is being worked on, if everything's good with it, keep it going. Obviously, they're going to still work on it. They're not going to stop. And then announce it in 2022, next year. Announce it with the movie. And then say, hey, good news. The game literally does come out this year. Because if you announced it this year, maybe you would end the trailer with 2022. And that may be disappointing to some people. But if you did it next year, obviously, you could just... saying 2022 next year is different than saying it this year, right? I honestly feel like that's definitely a possibility. I do think they're holding some things very, very close to their chest. Silent Hill, this game, even like a Spider-Man 2, I bet you they could talk a little bit about that, but they're not. They'll hold on to, right? I'm sure they have exclusive deals. I really want this game to be announced. I've always had conflicting thoughts of what to do with Nate in it, and I'll talk about that in future videos, but as long as they do something right, even if it doesn't have Nate in it, or if it does, but just barely, as long as they do it right, I mean, it's a return to my personal favorite franchise of all time. I mean, that's why I'm so engaged in Uncharted. It's my favorite game franchise ever. Uncharted 4 is still, to this day, it's almost 5 years old. In fact, it will be 5 years old this year. It is still my favorite game of all time, okay? I adore this franchise. I adore that game, and I really, really want to see it back. So hopefully, and one final thing I will say, you could say this every year. This is kind of a cop-out thing, but it is something to keep in mind. Sony, like I said, with Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, they announce things going like in the future. So they want you to know what games are coming out in the future because they have to sell hardware. So if you're buying a PlayStation console, they're saying, okay, well, here's the reasons to get it now. Demon's Souls, Miles, Destruction All-Stars, all these games. But here's the reasons to get it later. And that's what you saw in the State of Play in June. That's what you saw in September when they announced like Hogwarts Legacy, and they showed Pragmata, and they showed all of this different stuff. Horizon, right? Spider-Man, God of War, and both of those, both those showings, they showed a little bit of what's to come right away, and they showed a little of what's to come going forward. This year, and I've talked about it before, you got Destruction All-Stars, you have Stray, you have Ghostwire Tokyo, you have Gran Turismo, you got Ratchet, you got Horizon, you got Returnal, you got Kena Bridge of Spirits. That's a lot. That's like 7 or 8 games. I've gotten good at listing them all because I just say them so often. It's a really good list, by the way, and I know I'm missing a Little Devil Inside or Within. I don't remember the exact name, but there's that game too. There's a lot of games, and some of them are big, some of them are small, some of them are kind of weird, right? But they're all over the place. However, what about 2022? Well, Final Fantasy 16, that probably comes out this fall from word on the street. God of War Ragnarok, does that get pushed to 2022? I do think so. Spider-Man, is that 2022? Probably, maybe even 2023. You got to start painting the picture, the Naughty Dog game, whatever the next Naughty Dog game is. You got to start painting the picture for the years to come. We're in 2021. We know there's going to be great games. You do want to focus on them. I'm not saying literally leave them behind to talk about the future when you're in this year and you have to push these games right now. No, you do that, but there is a blend. there's a blend of talking about future games. Uncharted is statistically or factually a future game, so it would definitely be something that I do think if they're saying, hey, one more thing, the whole Jim Ryan one more thing stuff, I do think that's definitely possible. Like, hey, we're working on an Uncharted game. It's not coming for a while, but we're working on it. Like, it's coming back. Again, I think that would have worked really well with the movie. Still could work. I still think it's going to work just as well without the movie, but I think it would work even better when you pair it with it. And if Sony believes that, I honestly feel like we could be having the same discussion early next year saying, okay, are we going to get an announcement in February of 2022? I think we'll probably have that discussion very soon. So let me know, guys, in the comments below, what do you think? Do you think we're going to get a game announcement this year, next year? When do you think it would release? All that good stuff. Let me know. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed. Make sure you guys have the bell icon turned on so you know when all these videos go up. Again, if you guys want to follow me on Twitter, PodcastNow15 is my Twitter handle. Thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I hope to see you all on the next video.